Hello everyone and welcome back after the break. When do you think of big open source programs like Google Summer of Code, Hacktoberfests and all? Who do you think carries all these programs on the back? The mentors actually. So this time we have someone who will be speaking about how mentors and overall the team carries the program on the back and how we can appreciate and make their lives a bit easier. Because we all know that often these programs are a way for contributors to learn. But sometimes you need a bit more planning to make sure that nobody is burdened and everything runs smoothly. Welcome Terry Oda, who, in her own words, has a PhD in horribleness and is an open source advocate, a parent, a volunteer, and a mentor in GSOC. She will be speaking on better mentoring while overwhelmed. Over to you, Terry.
This is Better Mentoring While Overwhelmed. I'm Terry Oda. So, many years ago, a Women in Computing group asked me to throw together a hackathon for their conference. And fortunately, they only gave me about a week's notice, and they were really taken aback when I said, no, it takes me at least 3 months to prep for an event of the scale that you guys want to do. And while that was obviously not a great opportunity for me, a lot of good code mentoring opportunities are very overwhelming. I've been doing teaching since I was a teenager. I used to run space and science education programs for kids with my best friend in high school. I went on to the university where I taught game design and computer science topics for years. I now work as a open source security researcher where I do still do some teaching, but the vast majority of my mentoring time is volunteer. In the Python community, you may know me as being involved with Google Summer of Code. For the past 10 years, I've been the figurehead of a group of people who run the event for the Python Software Foundation, which means we take in probably 70 to 100 different mentors from different projects and have maybe 200 to 300 applicants. And of those, we can take maybe 25. I've been doing Hacktoberfest for the past couple of years. I've been a little bit involved with Outreachy, and I've been involved in a lot of different hackathons and code sprints and events at conferences. So, why are these code mentoring opportunities kind of overwhelming? Well, the first thing is that a lot of them are designed for beginners. So you end up with this deluge of people who all need the same kind of help at the same time, usually quite a few more than you have mentors. And then to make it a little bit worse, a lot of the events have sort of an element of competition. And sometimes that's inherent to the event. So Google Summer of Code, not that many people get in. There's only so many slots. Hacktoberfest used to be that you get a t-shirt for participating, but there were only a limited number of those. So people would want to all be doing things at once and be the first, be the best, be the most obvious, have the most contributions, which puts a lot of pressure on mentors. And then on top of that, sometimes people just want to add gamification to it. So conferences will often, make prizes for the people who have the most commits or the best commits. And it adds another level of stress into the system. And then on top of that, mentors and contributors are people. So they may have other stuff going on in their lives that may be overwhelming. Usually for a conference, people can manage 1 or 2 days of concentrating on a thing, and they've already arranged childcare or whatever they need. But I ran this global mentoring program while I was pregnant one year, and that actually wasn't the worst year. The worst year was the year after when I had an infant at home. People get sick. I mean, obviously people get sick. People have had, we had a person whose house burned down in the middle of the thing. There is war, there is stuff, there are layoffs. We've had people reorged out of positions where they're no longer allowed to work on the open source project that they were intending to do. People have other things going on, and you have to be prepared for that as part of how a mentoring event is going to be overwhelming. So the first tip I have is that you can say no to things. So obviously that first opportunity that I talked about had a bunch of red flags for me. There wasn't enough time to prepare. the organizers didn't seem to understand what I would need to do, which means that they would probably have difficulty supporting me well and my people well on the day. And I hate to say this, but it came from a women in computing event. Nonprofits are sometimes the least respectful of my time. And I realize that it's really hard to say no for a lot of people. I actually do that professionally. That's one of the side effects of being a computer security engineer, is that I spend a lot of my time analyzing risks and benefits and then saying no to people who don't want to hear it and sometimes have more power than me. If you want to give a whole keynote on how to say no to things, we could do that another time. But for today, I want to focus on the times where you've said yes, the times where you've said, look, I think this is going to be fun. I think we're going to get new contributors to our open source project. We're going to teach a lot of kids. What do we need to do to make that the most successful so that we're not wasting our time on an event that could be a little bit mediocre otherwise? So, as I said, I start early, probably about 3 months early for a hackathon, a little bit longer, a little bit less, depending on the event and how recently I've done another event. So the first step for me is usually documentation. So the number one problem I've seen people have is they forget to go through step by step and do every part of their setup documentation. And then when they get to the event, everyone comes in, gets stuck on the same spot, and all the mentors are completely tapped out trying to help them at once. So if you're thinking about the deluge, you're trying to spread it out into a much more calm river and giving people the opportunity to all get a little bit different lengths before they need help so that the mentors are available. So go through those setup materials, make sure you install everything in a fresh VM. If you've got a friend or a new mentor who's going to help you this time, get them to do it and let you watch. So you can learn a lot from watching someone else try to use your product. After that, anything you want people to do next in terms of, like, if this is an open source project, are you going to want people to contribute? Do they need to run some tests? Is there anything else they need to do? After that, what about the architecture? What are they going to need to understand to be a real contributor to your project or to do the tasks that they want to do? And then, honestly, just everything else. You're not going to get every single thing done, but if there's an area that has been consistently hard for people to do, or there's an area that you want your contributors to work on during the event, focus there. Next step is automation. So again, we're trying to sort of spread out the deluge of requests for human help. So we want people to get a little bit further. So I've listed a few of my favorite tools on for Python repositories specifically on there. But basically, if you're going to be checking for code quality, get some tools to do that. If you want your Python project to all be PEP 8 compliant, get a checker for it. If you're worried about security issues and you've got a bunch of new contributors who might not be aware of them, a tool like Bandit that can help them guide them into issues there. The idea is that you want people to get feedback right away, either running it locally on their thing if you've given them the instructions to do that, or running it not locally on the server if you're having people contribute directly like that. And you want them to be able to get that feedback and work on those issues without necessarily having to have a human in the loop. Obviously, you're going to want to help people, but this means more people can do it self-serve while they're waiting. The next one is task preparation. So when I taught at the university, I thought nothing of going into a lab with 30 students all working on computers and helping them through whatever it was that I needed to help them through that day. But if you told me I was going to go into a hackathon at a conference and I was going to be the only mentor in a room of 30 people, I would say that's probably not a good situation. And the big difference here is that when you're at a university in a teaching environment, you usually have people all doing exactly the same task that is well-defined, that they know how to do, and that they can finish all on their own. And it's been tested, it's been done before. It's a lot harder if you're looking at people working on an open source project to get them all to the same place at the same time. So we want to make our event where people are working on different things look more like the teaching environment where they've got what they need to do the task. So that's Make sure you've got easy tasks, make sure they're really well described, that you've got all the steps in them, that you've linked all of those documents that you just prepared and the automation that you just prepared so that they can do that. How many easy tasks you need sort of depends on the type of event and what you want to do. So for something like Google Summer of Code, you might want to have about double as many easy tasks as you have anything else for the number of contributors who you're having incoming, because usually people can do 1 or 2 easy tasks and then they're ready to try something a little bit harder from the rest of your back catalog of issues. For events where there's competition involved and people want to have a whole lot of commits, you're probably going to need a lot more easy commits available for them to do that really fast and get to, the level where they're going to get a t-shirt or whatever it is. And the other one is mentor organization. So don't do it alone. Even when I was at the university teaching alone, the preparation was done by me, the other teaching assistants, the prof. We did a lot of that in advance. You need experienced help for an overwhelming mentoring situation. It's really tempting to say, oh, well, we'll just get it, it'll be me and a bunch of people who volunteered to sign up. They'll be fine. That's not always the case. Sometimes you're adding more pressure on yourself to then now you've got a whole bunch of new participants, but also you're training a whole bunch of mentors at the same time. So really what you want is at least a few people who already know what to do. And that's one of the reasons you have to start 3 months in advance. You're going to have to train people to do code review for your project. You're going to have to make sure they all have commit bits and they know how to use them appropriately. You want to have as many well-trained and experienced mentors as possible. And then you'll have the capacity to have a few people shadow, do this event as a mentor for the first time, and then they'll be more prepared in the future. So we've prepped all we can. Let's start. So my first tip is that you really need to keep your mentoring team sort of all in the loop. This isn't so much of a problem with hackathons because everyone can sort of hear what everyone else is doing and you can see people moving around. So that's not as much of an issue, but it's a big issue when you're doing it online because a lot of mentoring events are focused around beginners who may feel shy asking what might seem like a stupid question in public. So find ways to have channels that people work in, encourage people to have those conversations in public, and encourage mentors to redirect people to do that. What you really want here is you want your mentors to be well informed. So if someone gets sick or has a job change or whatever, someone else is prepared to step in with minimal time having to ramp back up. So that's especially important for something like Google Summer of Code that happens over a long period of time. If someone's got COVID and is going to be sick for 3 weeks, we need someone who can step in during that time. The other thing that I highly recommend, especially for the longer events, is scheduling check-ins. So for a shorter event, that often means just walking around the room and giving people a chance to talk to you without having to stick up their hand and feel like they were being disruptive. It's much easier if you're right beside them and you're saying, hey, how's it going? Do you need any help? But it's especially important for online events or long-term events to have a regular scheduled meeting. That means that people can get things like childcare and fit it into their work calendar so that they have a dedicated time for the mentoring. It's very easy to just assume things are okay and not do anything. It's also really nice for people to get the opportunity to talk about things that are maybe not just code. So if you're talking about an open source event, you're going to be doing regular code review, but code review isn't usually the time where you talk about, what jobs are coming up, whether there's any interesting conferences coming up. A lot of mentoring events, again, are for people who are relatively junior. So they may have questions about work-life balance in the industry or other things that they need to know about what it's like. And the last one that I would say during the event is to sort of resist the urge to add extra competition to things and find ways to reward collaboration. So if you want to give out prizes for people who are especially helpful, for people who helped other people get their setup done, for people who turned around and helped with code review, who did some bits of mentoring tasks. If you want to, there's a lot of ways you can do this. But what I really want is for you to say, okay, let's think about whether this gamification goal or whatever that I have, this vision that I have, is it serving the mentoring experience? Like, maybe it's fun to add all these things, but is it putting a lot of extra stress on the mentors and on the contributors that is maybe harming the full experience of what I want to get out of this whole event? And assuming your event has gone off well, you've made it, you're exhausted, there's a few more things before you completely rest. So the first one is think about whether you want to guide people into any sort of next steps. Now, sometimes you don't. Like you want to teach people. I did an event where we just taught people how to do MicroPython and like make a blinky LED. There's no follow-up for that. That's fun. We did it. We're done. Move on. But when I'm talking about doing something like getting more people to my open source project, the whole point was to try to get people to stick around or to be involved. So maybe I want to send people invites to our next group meeting, in a month. Or maybe I want to spend some time just thanking people for their contributions, following up with them on contributions that didn't get finished. Sort of think again, what is the goal of your event? What do you want to help guide people into mentoring situations that aren't overwhelming and that are nicer and easier for everyone involved? The other one is aftercare. So, if it's an in-person event, take your mentors out for dinner. That's a great idea. When it's not an in-person event, things like sending thank you emails to make people feel appreciated. One of the biggest causes of burnout is feeling like nobody cared about what you were doing. So let's not do that to our people. And I will say that I am terrible at this because when it's something like Google Summer of Code that I've been doing for months and months, like it's a 9-month event often for me, I am exhausted. I take a vacation and then I come back and try to do that stuff afterwards. So, take care of aftercare for yourself as well as your people. A lot of these next steps don't have to happen right away, and maybe it's better even if they happen a little bit later when people are ready for them. And the last one is spend some time to learn. So again, we're trying to figure out where the pain points are going to be in the mentoring. We tried to figure it out in advance, but often you don't know until the event happens. So try to talk to the mentors, find out what kind of feedback they have. That's a good thing to do while you're also thanking them, and try to figure out what's going to make a better event next time. Were there places that your documentation could be better? Was your CI system broken? Do we need some backups? Do we need extra people who know certain things? Those are all good questions to ask. So, in summary, if you're running an event that is likely to be very overwhelming, I recommend trying to limit mentoring bottlenecks. Some of those are going to be code, some of those are going to be docs, some of those are going to be competition and other things. It's really hard to figure them all out without knowing what the event is, but learn from people who have done similar ones. Second is staff those events well. You need a lot of people and you need a lot of experienced people, and you're going to have to spend time training them if you don't have experienced people. And finally, expect things to go wrong. I have an awkward story about someone who said, we don't need a backup mentor. I'm a prof at a university. I work with students all the time. I don't need anyone else to help me with that. And I said, well, yeah, that's great, but like one of our other profs got hit by a car. So who's going to take over for you if you're hit by a car? I just need a name. So planning for that is hard, but be prepared that things are going to happen. And again, it's useful to learn from other people who've had it happen and what sort of things are likely to come up. So that's it. I'm Terry Oda. You can check out my blog where I talk about open source and a whole lot of hobby stuff, or I'm in the Fediverse, or you can send me an email, and let's talk about mentoring. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
So, as a mentor and contributor in open source program, I have seen both sides. And really, as Terry said, this was kind of soft. Often you have to think about how the people who help you make your program successful. You treat them just a bit better. The mentors don't ask for much, so the least you can do, as Teddy said, just treat them a bit. And they will be happy. We're simple beings, really. Thanks a lot, Terry, for your words, and I hope you all enjoyed the session.